Hello, my name is Matthew. It is my goal in this video to take you from scratch to a complete understanding of exactly what a RESTful API is in as short a time as possible. So since we're on the clock, let's dive in. Just like we humans use grammar and language as a predetermined structure to help facilitate communication, computers also have predetermined messages that they expect to receive from one another. One of the many ways that they do this is through the use of HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTP is one of the most integral parts of the internet. So here on the screen I've got a few of your most common HTTP verbs: get, post, put, delete. And then some of these are some of the less common ones. There are several more too. But like head, for example, is the same as get, but it does not expect a body. By far, the most common of the HTTP verbs is the GET request. If you open up your browser, like say Mozilla or Google Chrome, and type into it www.google.com, this text on the screen right here is pretty much exactly what your browser would generate and send to Google. And this is an actual HTTP request to say, get this resource. So if you were to type that into Google, this is a pretty good example of what kind of response you might get back from Google. So a response is also an HTTP message. It's slightly different though than a request, because requests will have verbs and a response is going to have, as you can see right here at the top, a status. So status 200 means okay. Also, you can see I cut it off here, but actually this page is much longer because the response content, that's actually all of your HTML and CSS that you're going to receive. It's the actual web page that is the response that Google is sending back to you. So that's how you generate a GET request. You just type a URL into a web browser and it automatically generates a GET request. But in order to show you how to generate the other types of requests, I'm going to go to my website here. So it's just hiremat.dev. And as I type that in, it just created a GET request to my own website, and then we got a response back. The response included this HTML. But so if we go and click on projects here, the way that I have my website set up is you can click directly on the window and see the project, or you can go down to the bottom and click see the code, and that will direct you to my GitHub. But I wanted to show you this blog site because it is a very it's almost like bare bones representation of a RESTful API. And this is something I did as part, it's a project in Colt Steele's Web Development Bootcamp, which, by the way, is a fantastic course. I cannot even begin to tell you how much I learned, and he's a really fantastic teacher. So here, looking at the blog site, if you look at the top, notice the URL. It's our URL and then /blogs. But if I click on one of the blogs to actually zoom in so we can read this blog post here, now it's still /blogs, but there's a ID that represents this particular blog. If I were to just at the end here go /edit, it would take me to the page where I'm able to edit that post. So I could type if I wanted to and change what it says. But if we go over here to the GitHub and look at the edit page, see right here, there's this form that allows us to enter all this information. And if you notice right here, the method equals post. Well, post right here, that's one of those HTTP verbs. So once again, to create these different types of HTTP requests, it's all handled by the browser. But this is a good example of how to generate one of the other types of request. And so on the other end, if you are looking at things from the standpoint of being the server or controlling the server, the way that you handle all these exact same things, I'm going to go now into the controller, because this is Node.js with Express is what I'm using here, and so it's a model view controller programming paradigm essentially. But so as you can see in here, these are just the routes that you've programmed. So notice how it says get right there? It's literally saying if someone sends a get request to, to a specific route, in this case just the slash, so it's like the home directory. Someone sends the get request to the home directory, then it's going to execute this code. Someone sends a get request to the blogs, then it's going to execute this code, and it's going to render, whatever that code tells it to render. If we get a get request to blog/new, that would be a different route. And so you see we got the new route, create route, show page, all that, edit route, app.get, most of these being gets, but here we got a put, that's to the update route. And finally we have one of these other ones, an app.delete is the route to actually tell it to delete. Like if you went over here to the blog and you wanted to actually delete, this posting, then it would be a delete request. Alright, so I believe that gives you a pretty good higher level overview of exactly what HTTP is and how it's such an integral part of the internet. Now I want to discuss something else that's really crucial for computers. It's called CRUD, the CRUD cycle. Create, read, update, delete. The four basic functions of persistent storage. Now if you think about it, if you use Word or just about anything on computers where you're actually creating something like an object or a document, these are the four things that you need to be able to do to that document, whatever it may be. I don't care if it's a blog, a Facebook post, a YouTube video. Create, read, update, and delete. It just happens to be that people have noticed that we repetitively do those four things. So understanding HTTP and CRUD, that really gets at the heart of what RESTful API is. Because basically what it is, this right here is the 7 different routes of a RESTful API. This is exactly what a RESTful API is. So you can see if you want, it can seem a little counterintuitive. Why are there 7 routes if it's just create, read, update, and delete? But notice, like create, for example, has 2 routes, because there's the one route where you're being directed to the form that lets you fill out all the information. In the example of the blog, for example, where we're entering the text and a URL for the image and all that is what we do. See if we come over, new post. Right here, see, we can enter the title, the image, and the blog content, And so that is one route. Takes us to blogs/new. And if I were to just see, we just created this new one down here at the bottom. And so what we just did in order to create, we utilized these 2 routes here. And then read, that's just when you're looking at a blog post. So right here, this would be our read route. Update is when I go to this and I type /edit. This brings me to the edit form. And once again, there are 2, because you have one route where you go to edit and you have another route where you're actually submitting the edit that you've just entered. And then destroy, same thing. Also notice here, it's kind of interesting that create and edit actually have the same route that they're using, but the difference is the HTTP verb. So edit is a get, update is a get HTTP verb, whereas the create would be a post. So I think that gives you a pretty decent understanding of exactly what a RESTful route is. But one thing I want to clarify is this is exactly a RESTful API route. Like if you were to accomplish the same things by making a slightly different set of routes, that would not be a RESTful API. This is a standardized thing that it allows other computer programmers to be able to predict how your site is going to function. And so that is what a RESTful API is. This exact set of 7 routes. Okay? Thanks for listening, you guys. I hope that was helpful.